Hello, everyone. We are already chatting here, right? It's been so nice to be here with you. Finally, again, it's been quite some time that we have not been together. The topic we are going to discuss today is, for me, something very special, something that I have been studying for literally decades. And I have so much to share. But I want to bring some basics to you today so that you can get from that point onwards, or we can go together from that point onwards. I see some of you joining now. Hi, Demetri, so nice to see you here. I have been meaning to contact you, so I'll do that soon. Hi, Patricia. The other ones I have already said hello, at least those who introduced themselves here in the chat. Thank you so much. If for you it's the first time you are here, I am Nancy Trivelato. Be very welcome. Here in this channel, we study about spiritual matters, but in a way that we see them all completely interconnected in our lives in a very natural way. There is no separation between spiritual life and physical life, and we want to create that bond in a way that we demystify some of the approaches that exaggerate some things or end up placing fears on others. So this is what we endeavor to do here in this channel. Be very welcome. And today, our discussion has everything to do with this, right? Understand some of the technical aspects of a component that is an integral part of our lives. How we sense one another, how we experience one another, how we feel each other's presences, how we can interrelate and understand what goes on around of us. This is a very big story, a big picture for us to cover, and I'm going to focus today on a small fraction of this, but this small fraction, I believe, is key for each of us to be able to make sense of our sensations, of what we experience, and make sense of some of the experience that we have had in the past, maybe, and they are still lingering in our minds. The point is, if we understand what happens, then we can do something about it. If we don't, we are passive and we are just a victim and spectator of whatever happens in our lives. And that's what we want to change here. I promise you, this is possible to change. And here I am going to bring to you some ideas. Let me change the vision here of my screen. I want to talk to you about your energy system, which is much more than just one chakra, much more than just one ability. Our energy system is, in a way, what makes us to exist here. And I want to explain whys and hows as much as possible, but trying to funnel the context here. One of the things that we have to start by saying is that we have different components in our energy body. Of course, when we say energy system, it is more than the energy body alone, but here, for practical purposes, we are going to focus on it as our energy body. Otherwise, it becomes so technical and there is no point. We want it to be practical. The first thing you see here is chakras. Chakras, they are a topic that has been studied for so long. Literature about chakras probably is one of the oldest one that we have in terms of spiritual reality. I think chakras before possession, but then each religion and each area see them in a different way. But when we are more into the esoteric or metaphysical study, chakra appears first. But because of this, there are so many good aspects and bad aspects of the study, because many people, they just repeat the knowledge that they have been hearing for ages. I mean, one repeat and write down, and then the other one just repeats. And I think we all have to endeavor to understand our own chakras, our own sensations, because chakras, they are a key for us to understand who we really are. And I'm going to tell you why in a moment. And then we have another big component here that is the meridians. And the meridians are something similar to the blood circulatory system in our body. But it's obviously our subtle energy system, our spiritual energy circulatory system. And here in this image, I have spent some time today trying to create something that would show how energy flows from all directions from one chakra to another, but they go into each other and they are all the time redistributing in our energy body, pretty much as we would see in terms of our circulatory system in the physical body. Meaning, yes, the heart is pumping blood and then it goes through our arteries, but it's all the time whatever is in the component in our blood, it's going to be flowing through our whole body. That's why you can analyze the blood you take from yourself from any part of your body. Therefore, when we think of energy, it's much more than that. And when we analyze the energy of one chakra, it has some specific characteristics. But overall, when we think of our energy body, one chakra is completely interrelated to another. They affect each other, but they are affected by the environment, by the environment, by others around, physical people, non-physical people, and I want to explain to you how it happens. To understand this, let's first change a little bit, perhaps, our perspective into how we interpret our chakras, because many times this is studied or referred to, or we can think of it as something that it's isolated, like we have the physical body, and then we have our chakras integrated on it, but almost as if they were like a piece that have been attached to our chakras, like a prosthesis, but an energetic prosthesis, something that is there and it's more like of a, the word I'm looking for, something that's more permanent reaction. It's not so interactive. But chakras are not that. Chakras, they move, they change, they are flowing, they flow from one area to another, and they are multidimensional, hanging there with me, because I'm going to explain what does it mean. But what I'm trying to say is it's not one layer that we have just overlaying our physical body, and that is the energy of the chakras. It's not. It's multiple layers. It's a very complex system, super complex. And that is why it's not so simple when we say, okay, let me open my chakras, or let me activate my chakra, or let me try and sense, for example, my frontal chakra, like the third eye. It's not that simple, because it's not only the sensation, it's how deep it goes, what energy it's in contact with, how energy flows from this chakra, for example, to the top of our heads, to the other chakras. Some of these meridians that we were just discussing about, so we were saying they are interchakral connections. Some of them, they are much stronger between chakra A and B, and less from chakra B and C, but all of these means something. There are purposes for this, and this is what it's important for us to understand. Then we have a third component here that is our multidimensional structure. Multidimensional structure because this is also part of our energy body. For all practical purposes, you can think of your energy body as something that follows the shape of your physical body. And that is a way of putting it, but very, very close to reality. It's not identical, but very close to reality, because our energy body is adhered to our physical body and also to other structures, which is what I'm going to explain to you here. And that will clarify to you a number of things. But our energy body, therefore, it's completely aligned. So when we are in the waking state, and I'm talking only about the waking state condition, it's completely inside of our bodies. But as you can see here in this image, and that's why I wanted to bring this image, it's not only inside of our bodies, because if you observe this here for a moment, you will see, I do not know if you can see my cursor there, but you will see there are energies around here, like the astral body. We are seeing somebody starting an out of body experience. So you will see that there are energies around or inside involving the physical body, but they are also with the non-physical body, with the astral body, and they are also in between. That's why we see something here that is a kind of a complex system to explain. So that is a multidimensional structure, meaning it's not only aligned with the physical body, it's not only in the energy body, it's not only in the astral body, it's in the three of them at the same time. And this energetic structure of ours, it's alive, it's moving, it has a personality. I'm putting this, under quotes, but it has a personality, because when I am talking to someone and hearing from their psychic experiences or their energy experiences, or I am sensing their energy to measure something there, I can completely see the difference between the energy body of one person and another. And sometimes it is something that you could guess by seeing how the person is in physical life. But the number of times that I have surprised myself, assuming someone is very open energetically, but that was not the case, or vice versa, and so many other characteristics of the energy body. So the point here is our chakras, the energy that flows between our chakras, and therefore also the structure that is flowing through the astral body, physical body, and the energy dimension, which is almost like a hybrid dimension between the physical world and the non-physical spirit world. This is key here. The physical world and the spirit world, they are not separate, not at all, not at all. The same structure that we just saw in our selves, like our energy body and how that is multidimensional, physical, non-physical, astral, and energetic. Same thing happens with all of the structures. So right now, you and I am going to include myself. We are here pretty much observing the physical world, perhaps not 100%. We may be distracted to some aspects. But the truth is, we are blind. We are blind, and sometimes we are not being able even to rationally think of what is going on in the other multiple levels of reality that are all interconnected here. And we try and compartmentalize this reality as physical world, spirit world, when we are outside the body, when we are in our jobs, perhaps our everyday life, or when we are trying to have an astral projection, we try to compartmentalize. And yes, we do this so that it makes easier for us to study. But there is no separation. Therefore, why is it that right now we are not completely conscious of all of the different dimensions and realities here? It's a deficiency of ours, deficiency in our senses. And people have different levels of sensitivity or perception to this non-physical reality. But we pay a price for this, because the more sensitive we are, the richer our world becomes. That is a good thing, but the more complex it becomes. If one had to choose, I don't think anybody would choose not sensing the non-physical world. The only ones that would say, I prefer not to know anything that exists beyond the physical realm, are those who are under a lot of pressure, energetically, spiritually. Therefore, they would prefer not to see what is really there. But not seeing does not change the reality. Our emotions, our feelings, how that reverberates inside of us will remain the same. So knowing is better. There is no way of turning back. We cannot unknow what we know. Can I use this word? So we cannot. Anyway, what we know is there. And what we knew from a past life, it's there. The experiences that we have had that made us move on in our evolution, in our attributes in terms of ourselves as consciousness, as spiritual beings, they are there for good. We may not be manifesting them right now, but they are there to stay. So it's super important that we keep this in mind, because this will be key for the evolution of this study we are going to do here. And then what we will continue seeing here is that there are some characteristics of our energy body. Actually, I'm going to tell you an anecdote of something I experienced once, which I guess illustrate how much our the different dimensions of life are interconnected. Because once I had to work until late. I was sleeping at the workplace. I just got a little mat and stayed there, and there was a sofa. But in the morning, there were people coming in, and some people were asking for information there at the reception, and I was half asleep, half awake. In my office, of course, doors locked. And at that moment, I disconnected from my body. So I had a lucid projection. But it was so instantaneous that for me, I almost didn't even notice I left the body. I noticed when I was already out, but that sensation of disconnection was not present, was really fast process. When I was up there, I saw those, there were two gentlemen asking for information there at the reception counter. And with them, there was 3 or 4 entities. And those entities were, when you see somebody creating like a disruption, if I would explain here in the physical world, I would say they are making noise, they are behaving inappropriately, they are bullying people, they are disturbing the environment in some way. Of course, they were not making noise or anything like this. This was a non-physical world or the astral dimension. However, in analogous terms, just as an analogy, that's what was happening. They were disturbing the environment, the other physical people who were there working, other spirits that were there present. And then when I saw that, I immediately told them, no, not here, you get out of here. And when I put that energy there, you get out of here, was for me so automatic when I saw what they were doing and how I would react and defend my place or my workplace in a way. When I did that, at that moment, an object fell from the shelves that were there. I mean, they had been there for ages, and they fell in the exact second that I created that burst of energy. Not here, not here, you stop this. So I came back to my body because the noise made me wake up. And when I came back, everything was clear in my mind. For me, it was a continuation. And then I started thinking, how many of the situations that we see in life, they have a non-physical, energetic component behind them. I think there are many, but I don't think it's always the case. So the problem is we cannot generalize. So some people, when they understand this, everything they want to explain with energy alone. And there are different factors. Energy is one of them. The presence of entities, spiritual beings, is another. Our capacity to deal with energy and the type of energy we have, the quality of energy of those involved in a situation is another factor to take into consideration, another variable. So we cannot generalize. But for me, that was a lesson that day. And then this brings me to the points that I'm going to discuss here in terms of this multidimensional structure or action of our energy. So far, you follow me, right? I will have time to talk with you at the end. And this is a brief explanation that I'm going to do, but I want to have this clear and well done for you. So, the characteristics of our energy body. Number one, it's in constant activity, permanent. So it's not like this is the energy body and there is some energy here. No, it's flowing, it's vibrating, it's permanent. That's why we can sense our energy as alive and other energies around as alive. And each energy field, ours and of objects, of places, they have a certain characteristic that gives them a personality. You can have an environment that is light or heavy, that your energy flows well or not, that you only have good thoughts there or you have bad thoughts there constantly. All of this is related to the energetic characteristics of the place. But we can only understand that once we understand how it works in our energy system. And it starts with this. Our energy body, our energetic system is in constant activity. And it varies from part to part of our bodies. But remember, the energy is flowing all the time. And not flowing only in the physical body and inside the physical body, because it is multidimensional in nature. What we just saw here in this image that you see now, it's multidimensional. The astral body is aligned here right now, and our energy body as well. With all of them, they are participating in a reality. There are other components that participate in how we manifest and in who we are, but they are not relevant here for what we are discussing. By the way, some of these images here, and I have pointed out, they are part of the consciousness development program. I just borrowed them because they were the best I had to show some aspects. They may not be the most beautiful images, but they have been created with educational purposes. So it allows us to explain some details. I'm not explaining here about them, I'm just using them as an illustration. Of course, when we are discussing about them in a proper course that will study all of this, we can go into details. Just for you to have in mind what we are dealing with here in terms of the knowledge. But then, besides having a constant activity, we have another thing here. Our energy body allows an interdimensional actions that involve more than one dimensions, but they only happen because dimensions are interconnected. That's why I'm calling an interdimensional action. Examples, we can make a list of dozens, if not hundreds. But out of body experience, why it happens? Because of this multidimensional nature, because of this activity, because of this energetic structure we have, healing, intuitions, as a matter of fact, intuitions or some sort of channeling, or when we feel we have been guided into doing something. The problem with being guided is who is guiding you? If we don't have the discernment, the fine-tuning sense to know who is there, who is guiding us, obviously or disguisedly, just with words or with feelings, then we may be deceived. But that is part of life. There's nothing we can do. The only thing we can do is let me try and understand better my energy system. And then any of these activities like empathy, sensing what another is sensing, or telepathy, picking a situation that's happening with someone else or someone else's thoughts or intentions, pretty much because of this energetic system we have, seeing energy or seeing spirits, hearing, and etc., big etc. there. But I wanted to explain what interdimensional action is. And then we come to another important point here about this energy. They are not bound by spatial constraints. There is no distance. Perhaps there is a multidimensional distance. We may be here so close to the physical dimension, and there may be a situation that is in a so subtle, advanced dimension that it's so far from the physical density or the type of dimensions we have surrounding the physical world that maybe we don't sense them so much. But that would be a technical aspect for us to study in another moment. But for all practical purposes, with who we know and what we want to do, what we want to achieve, there is no spatial constraints. That's why we can pick a thought from somebody who is far away. That's why we can do a healing of someone. And that's why sometimes we can be affected by the energy of people who is far away. People we have met 20 years in the past or in a previous life. I would kind of imply, but not in 100% way, that time is not that important either. Because something that happened 30 years ago can affect you as much as something that's happening today. It all depends on your connection with that specific quality of energy. The energy that happened in that event in the past, if it is still present in you, in this energetic structure of yours, as an informational pattern in your chakras, past is present as far as that. And it only changes when the information changes. Not because we forgot about it, but because something happened internally on us. But we will get there. Give me a moment here. And then there is another important characteristic here. Excuse me. That is your interface with the physical and the non-physical worlds is based on this energy. Your chakras, your meridians, this multidimensional structure, this constant flow of energy, constant activity, and how each chakra has a specific field with a specific type of energy, and they interconnect with one another. All of this is part of this energetic interface. And I'm going to go back here to one of the images that we had just showed before. This one, you see, this is the energy interface that you see there in between your physical and non-physical astral body, and around the astral body, and around the physical body, encompassing both. And as there is no distance, you can fly out of your body, you can go far, and these energies, they keep accommodating, flowing, stretching, and pretty much it's usually called the silver cord. But what's important here is that we are talking about the same energy. And then this means that your energy is permeable. And it's pretty much what we are trying to show here with this drawing that I put there for this representation. Your energy is permeable. All of this creates a situation in which it's impossible for you to prevent your energy from flowing around and others' energies from coming into you. However, how your energy will distribute around varies. What type of energy ends up coming out of you, it varies a lot. What type of energy penetrates you? It's not like whatever comes I'll have to accept. Absolutely not. On the contrary, there is something that you can control. But how do we control? Sometimes I see some studies that explain or interpret this energy system in a way as if we were dealing with the physical world. So, like self defense techniques or psychic protection techniques that tell you, okay, create a like a dome around of you or encapsulate yourself into something that nothing will penetrate. Can this help? Yes, I'm not going to say it won't help at all, but it depends a lot of what sort of effect you are dealing with. What is it that is coming to you? How much of affinity that has? What is the potential of that energy from penetrating you? And depends also on how permeable your energy body is. All of our energy bodies, from all of us, it is permeable. But some people, it's amazing. It's like, wow, fluid. It's like there are no barriers. That is not healthy. But other people, it's rigid. It's like an armor. That's not healthy either. Both will create problems. We need to find a balance here in between. But this sort of idea that we can create just a dome around of us and nothing else will penetrate, it doesn't make sense according to my studies, my experiences, what I've seen outside the body, what I have tried throughout my life and so many different techniques. It doesn't make sense at all because we are interconnected. There is no way that we can stop that. That is how things work. It's like you're going to say, for me not to age, I am going to make my heart stop beating or make it beat just like 40 beats per second. It's like you are going to die. It's impossible. It's the same thing with the energy body. But when there's a dysfunction, so your heartbeat is not normal for whatever reason, or is in a arrhythmia or any other situation, then your physical body will suffer with that. The very same thing happens in our energy body. When your chakras and the way the energies flow, they are not well compensated, not well balanced, you will experience problems, one sort of problem or another. But these problems, and that comes the hard thing, they are not just a mechanical situation. Because in our physical body, it's usually a mechanical situation. But even in the physical body, think with me, if you have a specific health problem, that puts you down, that makes you see life with a different color, that alters who we are. Now, if you think you can imagine these based on how we react when we have a physical problem, you can multiply that exponentially by lots of degrees. Why? Because energetically speaking, we are not only dealing with the physical world, it's the physical. It's the energetic realm, the energetic dimension that creates the binding between the two. It's the bridge. And it's also the astral spirit world. All of that being affected in a way when something is not well balanced in our energy. And by saying that, please allow me here a parenthesis. The more we study, the more we understand how things are, I'd say anybody with good self-criticism will see how many details we have to understand and master. All of us, and I will include myself, all of us could have more control of our energies. And this is evolution. That's what we are learning. We are learning to control our different bodies. We are learning to be able to master our thoughts. We are learning to be able to gain so many other attributes. And I'm not going to list them, otherwise, this will be shallow instead of reflecting what I want to say. But we are evolving as spirits and acquiring some characteristics and attributes that we don't even know exist. So it's natural that we have our limitations, we will have our challenges. However, most people, when it comes to their energy bodies, They are experiencing challenges and difficulties that they can absolutely prevent and overcome. For some people, it's a month. For others, it's going to be 3 years. And then, well, that's it. What is the option? Continue like that for future life or for our next period between lives? How are we going to be in our next period between lives? So there is no way for us, in my opinion, having out of body experience and have been studying this for more than 30 years. I don't see how we can turn, the blind eye there and say, I'm not going to pay attention to it. This is not important. But again, this is part of our lives. We are going to experience still many different things with our energy body. But the point is, let's experience new things and learn new things. But I'm going to give you some important tips here. So what we were saying is that all of us have an energy system that is permeable. Super important. Now, another thing, we live, therefore, as a conclusion, a multidimensional life. Look at this. You are there lying down, and there may be a spiritual being interacting with you. And here I wanted to put a first image of someone, so balanced, looking so well, and helping you to leave the body with something that hopefully reflects a very pleasant energy. This is another image we use in the consciousness development program to explain what to do, how this happens, blah, blah, blah. But here I want just to bring to your mind that this is what happens. And most of the times we don't see, we don't sense, or we kind of sense a bit, but we are not sure. And then our rational minds interfere. But then this sort of thing also happens. A not so balanced being around. Yes. And here, this image, it's very positive image, actually. For someone who knows how things work, this is a very positive image. Some people say, oh, it's ugly. It's not, there's nothing ugly. The gentleman there sitting is conscious of the spirit presence there. He's even looking at it. That spirit is not interacting, it's just curious, gently approaching, but gently approaching. When we don't notice it, or when we notice it only like half an hour later, what happens is that we start creating a situation in which, little by little, remember, our energies, constant activity is permeable. We start mixing our energies with that of that spiritual presence. And again, here in this image, the idea at least was to create a spiritual presence that is just curious. But that's not what happens always. Some of them, they are not looking that much in this array, but they know us. They know what hurts us. They know what's our weak points. They know what has been traumas for us in past lives. Sometimes we don't have it clear in our minds, but they do, and they know what buttons to push. So if we do not learn how our energy body senses and when our buttons are being pushed, then we just experience one situation after another. And sometimes there can be 3-4 months, everything is nice. And then it's 3 days that you feel tired, you feel drained, you feel depleted, you have nightmares, and strange emotions come. You are impatient, you feel irritated for no reason. So there are so many different ways that this can manifest. And with unbalanced thoughts even. But we also can have situations in which we are experiencing and being in contact with many different non-physical beings, like spirits, entities, in different situations. And this image here, again, is showing something that is positive in nature. But my point here was just to illustrate how we are interconnected. And in some moments, we may be not so close to this spiritual presence, but in others, the relation is so much that you can be with your family having lunch, and your mind is in a dialogue that is just creating that interaction with some sort of presence, with some sort of energy that does not leave you alone. And you are trying to have a pleasant conversation, but you are feeling anguished. You feel pain inside of yourself. You feel uncomfortable. Why? You cannot stop that energy from coming. And the more you sense it, the more you interact, the more you interlink. It's kind of difficult for us to be aware of the energy that are around and not interact. We need a proper or a specific, I'm going to change how I explain it. We need a specific structure in our energy body to be able to prevent it, to stop this mechanism. And then what we have here is that the same happens with physical life. So many times we are here, we are showing to people talking and how the energy flows from one to another. But now you can picture this and imagine the energy of the environment, it's also flowing to them. And the energy of spirits present around is also flowing to them. And they are having these energies pass and go. So it's such a complex, interlaced reality in a multidimensional level that we sometimes have a feeling that there is something awkward with that situation. There is something that happened during that specific day that we just had, because when we come back home, we are not feeling normal, or we have some sort of night that our dreams were disruptive. It's not our regular dreams. It's not who we really or we normally are. And it's super important that we use this reference. Who are we? How are we normally? So that we can distinguish when there is any sort of invasion penetrating us. How do you know who you are? I think from everything that we are discussing here, that is the hardest. How do you know who you are? I'm not talking about having past life recollection. That doesn't make difference. Who you are means what is the information that is impregnated in your own energy. Because that is what being there and you not knowing will open space for some of these connections. And these connections, I mean, interrelations, other people or spirits around of you. And then it comes a big challenge, because sometimes you can think, well, I am too pessimistic. So that just opened doors for all sort of unbalanced, silly things that I could avoid. How can I stop being pessimistic? Here is a question. How can you stop being pessimistic if you were deeply pessimistic? It's not something that you say, okay, now I'll be optimistic. No, because that is imprinted, impregnated in your energy that flows in your meridians. And then you have to start changing that little by little. It's like when you are like in a diet to create a detox in your body. It's little by little. You have to go through that process. The big challenge here is, how do we detox our energy system? If part of it is thoughts and things that we have, thoughts and emotions following them, of or related to situations that we have already experienced in this life, in other lives, conscious, unconscious, during the night, in astral projection, in dreams. But it's also components and information of these spiritual presences around of us, and everything gets super mixed. We need to learn to differentiate. And to learn to differentiate, it's not difficult, but it's a process that we have to create a method to start separating us from these beings. We need some sort of self-defense that is more than just wishful thinking. That is more than just, I'm not going to think about it. I do not know how it is for you, but if you are sensitive, if you pick the vibes of what is around, simple measures like this, just saying, oh, go to shop therapy, is not enough. I remember when I was around my perhaps 17, 16, something like this, and I would, go to the yoga practice and try to read books that would teach me about the spirit world and trying to make sense of the things that I would feel. And I have always been very sensitive and almost like a medium in a way, if you understand what I mean. Perceiving the non-physical world in a way that it's so natural to me that I cannot distinguish. It was, I wouldn't have like channeling of, allowing people to possess me, that I never had. But my mind, my senses, the feelings that I had, they were all mixed. So there were days that I was like feeling hopeless, feeling what is the taste of life. And I was young. So I learned so many different techniques. Oh, buy a crystal. Okay, there I went to spend a lot of money in crystals. Then, okay, you do a breathing. And with the yoga, you have lots of this. So you breathe from one nostrils, this number of seconds, and then you throw out through another. You exhale through the other nostrils, and that's what you do. And this will alleviate. Oh, I would do that many times a day, and I would buy my crystals. But the truth is, that didn't change me much. Just gave me a little hope for some hours or one day. It was more hope than anything. It didn't change me. Because when your energy is responding to something that is around, it is responding. And when we try to pretend it's not there, we create a worse situation because we start going further and further from our capacity of being able to distinguish who we are, what part of what we feel is us, and there are good things and bad things, that it's us, but what part is not us. And I think it's easier for people to distinguish what parts, good parts, are not them. For example, if a spirit guide comes close to you and makes you feel a bliss, makes you leave your body and you feel pure peace. Oh, I recognize that was special. But when another comes and that is not someone balanced, it makes you start feeling guilty, awkward, lost, confused, you cannot concentrate. Usually we don't distinguish, and that's not us. But again, I must repeat what I have said before. This is not to be generalized. I'm not saying you are tired. This is because there are energies there affecting you. I'm not saying this. Maybe you are burned out, perhaps, and that's what's going on. Maybe you are hungry. Okay. But if you are hungry or tired, does it make you more vulnerable to energies? That's a question mark. For some people, yes. For some people, no. But maybe the cause of you feeling, very irritable, maybe it's just because you cannot tolerate when your glycemia goes down. Okay. You need to know about yourself, but not rejecting the information that is there and not filling the gaps with imagination either. So we need a system. I know it is kind of complex when you do not have all the tools and when you are starting into this endeavor. It was for me. I still have challenges, but this part I'm telling you about, I think that part I now can cope with and make sense of it well. But that's why I'm trying here to inform you and give you at least the first steps. And then there is another thing here for us to think that, oh, by the way, I'm just put here to remind you, If this video is useful, remember to give me a thumbs up. Makes a big difference. If you are not registered here or subscribed to the channel, consider doing so, so we can have nice chats together. Now, what can you do to improve your energetic and spiritual interactions? Again, give me a moment, please. So, to start with, you need to establish a greater energetic cohesion, which means self defense in your energy body. And then you can ask me, how do I do this? You have to create a process of being aware of your energy in a way that when your energy is very fluid, or when it's stuck, or when there is some strange energy impregnated there, you can distinguish it. And the only way for you to do it is becoming familiar with your energy sensations. But if what I said so far makes sense to you, you do sense your energies. You perhaps are not so sure. They are so natural. They are so subtle that you cannot be 100% certain. That is natural. But that's how we start. And then the second point here is for you to improve the informational code of your energy. This here, I need to explain for a moment, because that is so important. When I talk about the informational code, you imagine that your energy system, your chakras, all of these structures we have discussed, they have been with us through all of our lives. Or in a way, they have been connecting our astral body, our non-physical body, to the physical body for all of our lives. Of course, we pass away, this body ceases to exist, but the key component that is there in the astral body remains. So right now we have information encoded literally in our chakras. And sometimes you are not aware of that information. But the spiritual presences around, they know what's in there. And they will exploit that. So you have to start by creating some sort of mechanism that you can reprogram. That's the word. Reprogram your energy. Therefore, certain type of things that would come and affect you a lot won't affect so much. Others will affect you more. Some that you faintly noticed sometimes, they will become very, very vivid. Others that would be uncomfortable, they will reduce a lot. It starts changing, but the only way it starts changing is when we create a bigger cohesion. From that point on, we change the coding of our energy. And then what we will do is that we will build an energy force field. Not everyone builds an energy force field. It's not just, okay, I'm going to put something around of myself. It's not that. It's something specific. It's something multidimensional. But I want here to give you all of these steps, because the force field is when you are able to imagine, put the best of your energy here in your energy body. Adjust this code, this information that is impregnated there. Get rid of blockers and things that were not so nice. And with the best of your energy, you start creating almost like a buffer. It's not a shielding. It's not a dome. No. But is a quality, informational quality of your energy that will naturally bring some things closer to you and reject others. And when anything comes close to you, it takes longer for that specific energy to penetrate you. So it gives you time to react. And this can be done in so many different ways. This is what has been happening since ever. We, human beings and other beings, we have energy bodies since ever. We have out-of-body experiences since ever. This is natural. But if we have a method that helps, if we can learn from someone who have done it well, that helps. So this thing with the energy force field is something that I have been discussing with you for some time, and it's Very important. The more we understand about energy and all of this interconnection, the more we see how important it is. Because when you are sleeping, you spend lots of time unconscious, or perhaps just experiencing dreams that are bringing to the surface some of your unconscious thoughts. And that is when we are most vulnerable. Most vulnerable. That's when many times specific information is put in our energy. So you make a huge effort to change, and then bam, you come back. So we need a force field because it's almost like an automatic self-defense. Let me put it this way, and one that works in your environment as well. Now, some of you who have been here with me have already heard me talking about this concept. I have been studying about this for like 22 years, but only last year or the year before, I created a system to teach about that, to train people, like a boot camp that I bring people with me to develop all of this. That's not a simple thing, and not something that we can say, you know what, just do this technique at home. Yes, techniques that are superficial or very safe we can do at home, but some things that we want to see, we have to be able to be prepared to see them. So that's why I say, if you are looking for a technique, there are many techniques, of course, and not going to say which ones you should or shouldn't do, but the one I recommend is the velo technique, because that is quite safe. When you do the velo technique, at the same time you are cleansing your chakras and becoming more sensitive, you are also building up your self-defense and your awareness of these energetic structures. So it's a so global technique that one thing comes with another. Because of this, that is the safest energy technique that I know. It needs to be done correctly. Otherwise, it's good, like many energy techniques. I'm not going to say all of them are good. Some of them, they are awful and create more problems than help. But there are many energy techniques. But this one is the one that I would recommend and have people do with no worries. You can check in my channel, and you see here that I have put for you 2 of my videos that can give you a lot of information if you are not familiar with this technique, Velo. Some of you heard me talking about this so many times, and we had some live talks exclusively about this, because it has some, it's very simple actually, but it brings challenges. Why? Now you will understand, because of everything we have discussed here in this video. The coding of our energy, the information that is there since previous lives, the connection that we have with other dimensions and how it flows and penetrates, and this constant action, reaction, and how our energy is mutable, is malleable, but at the same time, pick information and sometimes retain, hold it, becomes almost like a cyst. You know, when you have like a tumor, something that is there in you, but it's not part of you. Sometimes it grows. It's just an analogy. But in terms of the energy body, sometimes we have these structures that are like a cyst or a tumor. So if you have my book, Vibrational State and Energy Resonance, you probably remember, you have read there about what I call energo plug, like some structures that we have in our energy, that it's energo because it's energetic, but it ends up having such a pattern that allows some people, and especially some spiritual beings, good or bad or so, lucid, not lucid, to connect with us. So we need sometimes not only to do a self-defense, but to work deep enough to undo some of these energo plugs. But I never met someone who could not improve drastically. Some people, the change they have created in themselves, so big. I have some people that I know and that sometimes I talk like in private sessions and I guide them, but some of them who have been with me in the energy force field program, and I say, I admire you so much. You are my idol because some things are so deep and people can change, and you can. Everyone can. We need to remove once and for all this idea that only some very special people would be able to produce some energy effects, to do a healing on others, on themselves, or to connect with positive presence, or to be able to shield themselves, but in terms of a force field, not of a actual shielding, but from negative things. We all can do. Can we do it 100% guaranteed all the time? Goodness. No, you cannot guarantee to yourself that you can have dinner tonight without having problems, even if you eat something that you are used to. But yes, if you are eating something that you are familiar with, you prepared yourself, you can have 99% certainty that everything will be okay. And it's the same with energy. And if something ends up not going as well as you wanted, in spite of you understanding about energy, what do? Apply the techniques you've learned to adjust it. That's it. That is life, is reality. We cannot avoid that. Anyway, I have spoken so much, but I wanted very much to bring this notion to you here so that you would understand what goes on and why sometimes our thoughts are penetrated in a way that we are so much feeling it that it's difficult to separate us from that. And some of you, you may have experienced that for the past, I do not know, 10 years, 20, 30. I know people that since they know themselves, they have had some sort of a connections with some energy structures that hurt them a lot. And then they see, has never been me. By the way, if you are registered subscribed, to my newsletter, you read an account from someone, a student who sent to me an account, and that was so pleasant to read that I wanted to share with you. And that's it. We can identify things and we can change. That's for me very important to bring this notion. You do not need to be special. If you want to be informed of all of these opportunities, when the energy force field comes up, by the way, when it comes up, you register at least for the masterclass. The masterclass is not a sales class. It's the actual first class of the program. And there's loads that you will learn to understand all of this that we have discussed, but beyond. How does this coding of your energy is created? Why? And what is the structure of it? But I need time to explain this. So anyways, so you register, you join. It's the first class is there, free for everyone. Make sure you are subscribed to the newsletter because that's how you are going to be informed. Okay? By the way, the second edition of my ebook, Astral Projection, a primer, but a primer with loads of new information and rich content, then you can download it for free. So it's the second edition. There's new information there. If you have not yet enjoyed that, you take a look at my website, nancytrivelato.com, and you will immediately see, download the free book here, blah, blah, and you can go there and enjoy it. Hope it helps all of you. Good. I'm going here to take a look at your questions and comments. Some of you we have been talking before. Hadavi, hi, nice to see you here. And Serge, hi Serge, so nice to have you here with us. Wonderful. And other names here that I know, and some of you that I never spoke with. I consider here the chat speaking with you. That's how I feel it. Diaspora Radical, nice name. And then Tyler. There, let me bring, so we can read together. If the crystals don't work, buy essential oils. If they don't work, buy colored candles. It's all a scam. Find yourself inside. Disassociate from ego and thoughts and just be. Well said. You know, sometimes someone, by using a crystal, may find in themselves the force they need to focus their energy with more intensity. So I'm not going to say it's 100% useless, but if you are sensitive, it's a palliative. You know what means a palliative? It's just a remedy that's ephemeral, superficial. It's not really changing the root, the cause. But there is some merit to it. So Henry, hi. If I think you are asking if the recording will be available. Yes, it will be available on YouTube. Hi Mahi, nice to see you here. Thank you for everything. Is it possible that a connection with an extra physical could create cravings for food, alcohol, or cigarette? Yes, so there is a second part. Let me find the second part. If so, is eating, drinking, smoking reinforce the connection? In some cases. So can this be connected with non-physical companies for some people? Yes. But I cannot say 100% of the cases. But I know of cases, and some of it I am even working on sharing that with you. I know of people who stopped using drugs and alcohol, different people, different situations, and some of them psychiatric medicine, because they started being able to do Velo. It was, in this case, Velo who helped them with that, changed them. But can I say that all cases is due to a non-physical presence? I cannot, especially with eating, because eating sometimes it's a real addiction of the body. Smoking, a real addiction of the body. But I'm not going to say the same with some psychotropic drugs and with alcohol. Because in the case of alcohol and psychotropic drugs, because they affect our lucidity, it opens all sort of doors, windows, gates, multidimensional gates to non-physical beings. And most of them are going to be of a not so good type. Sometimes really bad. Sometimes just so. Sometimes just affect you a little. And some of them, they may create such a bond with the person that they later on keeps reminding the person, oh, let's have a drink. Let's have a drink. Or, you know what? Imagine the feeling of that drug. And then the person becomes manipulated and they crave, but the craving is not only theirs. So becoming stronger energetically helps tremendously. Knowing of this fact also helps tremendously, because the point is, okay, I'm feeling like having A or B because I am stressed. My body is asking for some pleasure in my brain, and that's what I'm needing. But to what extent it's only that? When is there non-physical beings, spiritual beings participating? We need to evaluate. So I do not want to generalize, but absolutely this can happen, Mahi. Yes, that was an interesting question. And then let me see who else I have here. 718 Sarav. I don't remember having seen you here before. Welcome. I say Vaheguriji in my mind. I realize when my devotion to that kind of gets weaker, somebody's in my energy field. I guess it's a what? It's a mantra? Raising our spiritual frequency. Yes, we need to raise our spiritual frequency, definitely. And we do that with Velo and with other methods. But that alone is not enough. Velo alone is not enough. Velo will give you a huge lucidity about your energy, about who you are, about interferences, will change the coding of your energy to a certain degree, will change the type of presences you have around. But there are other things that are important. For example, knowing sometimes some of our unconscious beliefs, because you do velo and then you contaminate yourself again, and then you do velo and you contaminate yourself again. Or you do velo, but because you have an unconscious belief or conscious that is not who you are, is something that is foreign, that belief comes and then open doors for those type of spirits around or entities to get close again. So it's not enough only raising our frequency. It's not enough only doing velo. It's a lot. But when we say raise our frequency, what method we are going to use? So some people say, I'll think positive, and I think that is great. But for how long does that last? If you are able to think positive and that lasts for a month, that's super. Being at your best, that's super, that's it. But usually that lasts a couple of hours, one day, and then you have to go again and keeps ups and downs. Why? Because there are still doors open. There are still connections with your energy body that prompts some reactions. Not so simple topic, but one that we need to understand. High knowledge. My understanding of velo is moving awareness and attention up and down the body so we learn to shift our consciousness. Is that correct? Partially correct, because we move our awareness up and down our bodies, yes, but we are not trying to be mindful and conscious of the physical body. We are trying to be mindful and conscious and connected and focused on the energy body that is inside of our bodies, but it's connected with each cell. It's all over. So you imagine doing this, you said, but the focus, what you are trying to perceive there, what you are trying to gain control of and make move is your energy. But what you said is not wrong. It's just adding this aspect. I hope this helps. And then Rick, hi Rick. I've always seen entities and spirits, often not friendly ones. I've tried all possible techniques, but only velo worked like magic. However, they've started appearing again. What should I do? They start appearing again, so you have to see what changed. Maybe you did your velo and it creates some structure, and then you just let go a bit, like got a bit more comfortable. However, it was not a permanent change in your energy structure yet, and it came back, and you went to be as open as before, because certain things, it takes some time. It's almost as if your energy body has a certain, let us think of the permeability. Just to pick one component that we discussed here, there are many different attributes, but I'm not going to list them or go into them because it's going just to make the story amplify instead of funnel it. But let's think of the permeability. So your energy body, the whole structure, has some sort of characteristics, some sort of level of connection with others. So we do velo, we start balancing this out. We start putting this into a, let's say, degree that is not too open, not too closed, and we can manage it. So it alleviates some sort of thoughts and feelings, and especially sometimes it's more like a feeling that is diffuse and perceiving some presences. But if there is not a stable change yet, we stop and some of these things may come back. Another thing that can happen, but from the way you wrote here and the way I interpret, I do not think it's the case, but I'm going to mention it, is that sometimes we start working and making progress but we go into different layers. It's almost like, okay, I could cleanse one layer, but then we go into another aspect. We are, in a way, touching different structures, different informational codes there, which will be disagreeable, inconvenient to some spiritual beings. So they may try to stop us from doing it. They may reinforce, they may come with extra strength not to allow us to do Velo. But Velo is not bringing them close to you, not at all. I guarantee you. Those of you who are doing Velo correctly, otherwise I cannot assume anything, but if you are doing it correctly, it does not bring any extra physical, spiritual presence close to you or near you. But what it may do is that it becomes more obvious to you, those that weren't there before, or those that come once in a while. But I feel more that it's because the change was not so well established yet. You see, Rick, you try and think if that could be the case. But it's it. So it's like with an energy, with a fitness, right? Physical exercise. You made yourself fit. It doesn't mean that you are going to have to do for your whole life the same discipline, the same schedule of exercises. But once in a while, you have to do something. Otherwise, all the muscles and the fitness that you created will go back. So it's more or less the same, right? Hey, Andy, nice to see you here. This had been incredibly helpful, wonderful. Helpful isn't even a word to explain it. This is almost a joint effort to improve ourselves here. That's how I feel. Thank you, Andy. Yes, that is the idea. When you mentioned not having had access to who we really are for years due to energetic connections that had taken place, this is an incredibly strong point. Indeed, and I know so many people in this. Actually, it's not uncommon. Huh? It's not uncommon. Guys, when we are sensitive to energy, when we pick what's around, when we are fluid more with this non-physical, that's a good thing. It means we are not stuck, we're not rigid, we are more spiritual than physical, but it has a price. Nobody teaches us to handle this reality. Nobody teaches us. Now is our time to say, I'm going to study it, I'm going to get to know myself and do the exercise that I need to do so that I am in control of my energy body, my energy field, my energetic structure. That's it. Wonderful. I have Dave. Hi, Dave. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. It's a pleasure, Dave. And then Barclay. Hey, Barclay. So nice to see you here. We have been together in a consciousness development class recently, right? It was wonderful. Thank you, Nancy, and you all. I enjoy and appreciate your talks. Thank you so much, Barclay. Alexandre. Hello, Alexandre. Never had an OB yet. I like it. Not yet. But I always have lucid dreams of having an OBE, including flying, meeting entities, etc. Hopefully, I will succeed one day. Thank you again for everything. This live was amazing. Alexandre, may I give you a tip? Try to observe if you are expecting that an out-of-body experience will always be lucid from the moment of detaching from the body. Because sometimes distinguishing some out-of-body experience from a lucid dream can be very confusing. I'll give you examples of what is a lucid dream that we are projected, that we are out of the body, but it's just a dream. For example, let's say that you are going to pass through a door, but you have to make effort to turn the knob and pull. Well, that may be just a lucid dream, because that is not natural. Or you may be too worried about, let's say, where you put some objects. Or people are there with you, but those are people that you know in your physical life. Too often. Too often there is my two brothers. Well, what are the chances that your two brothers are projected with you that so often? It can happen, but it's not the most common thing. So we would have to be very sporadic. Or that we are in a party and then that is a projection. That is confusing. That shows there's some sort of dream. Well, not any party, because sometimes outside the body there are things that look like a party. But if it's a party that you know everyone who is there from your physical life, then that's a dream. Sometimes when we are flying and the, how can I say, the impulse of our mind is not needed. You just say, I'm flying, but there is no will present. Your awareness is not there. You just remember of it as something that happened, as if you were in an airplane and flying happens by itself. In an out of body experience, we guide it. Imagine like Superman, you decide, I'm going down, I'm going up, and I'm turning, I'm slowing down, and whatever. We are guiding it in the out of body experience. In a lucid dream, that could sound as something that, just happened. And I don't have to do anything for that. So then it could be a lucid dream. Why am I saying all of this? Because maybe, I'm not saying necessarily, but consider some of those. At least you put a question mark and say, this I'm in doubt if it was an OBE or a lucid dream. But I think it's super smart to want to have a conscious disconnection. That is an amazing experience. But for some people, that is very difficult for psychological reasons, for conditioning, or because of conditioning. So you take this into consideration. Okay, Alexandre, please. And if you have not downloaded the second edition of my book, do it, because I have some good new tips there for disconnecting lucidly from the body. Okay? And then Demetrius is here. Hi, Demetrius. That's one of you. I've been attempting to detect entities during a room scan. Interesting. Sometimes when I point my scanner in one direction, after going back and forth multiple times, I can see the wall or objects. So it's like a barrier or blockage. Is that an entity? If not, what are signs or sensations that would suggest the presence of an entity during a room scan? Demetrius, to me, what you are describing sounds like the perception of an energy field. Because when we think of an environment, multidimensionally speaking, it's not only physical and non-physical. That's a super simplification that we do. It's physical, energetic, denser energetics, subtler, the non-physical that gets closer to the physical dimension. And then there's another layer and another layer and another layer. And there is one field inside of another field. And that's a little of what we want to work on in the energy force field. How can we penetrate all of these different layers and inspect what's there? So the way you describe here sounds to me like you perceived a specific field, a pocket, energetic pocket. Now, usually behind an energetic pocket, or behind the reason for this existing, there are some spiritual beings, some entities. Are they there permanently all the time? Not necessarily. So you may have sensed an energy pocket and the entity was there, or maybe you just perceived the energy pocket. You can even have some clairvoyances of, something fluid moving and some colors. Does this mean there's an entity here? It's hard to say. Can be yes, can be no. From what you sensed, we cannot tell. But what I can say is that when we sense an entity, usually we will sense a very direct, let me try and find a way to explain. You know when you are in the middle of a group of people and everybody's talking, and then one is looking at you, and immediately you do dun, and you see that the person was looking at you, and you feel that there's something coming. Yes, there are loads of people in that room. You are there, everybody's talking. But that one cannot escape your attention because there's something energetically that happened in the connection there between you and that specific person. Now, that sensation, which we cannot describe with words, I cannot, is a little bit what we feel. You are there inside, or connected, not inside, connected with that energy field, that pocket of energy. And then all of a sudden you sense there is something alive, there is something more immediate coming towards you. It's not just around, it's a more laser connection, more well established. So that is a beginning. I cannot say this is how it's felt always, but that's a beginning for you to explore a little bit more towards this area there. Okay? Very good question. Thank you. One more question from Knowledge. I did Velo the other night for 40 minutes. After that, I felt very big, hard to explain. Could that be the astral body? I don't think so. I think what you experienced was an expansion of your energy that creates some sensation like a ballooning. You feel big, but it's almost as if the borders of your physical body, they were indeed inflated. You were swallowed. That's how you felt, right? So that is usually an energy sensation, but that is, in many cases, a precursory sign of the out-of-body experience. Nice. Hi, Eretiel. Thank you for being here. Question 1. I often feel sometimes near me. I'm sorry, I read wrong. Something near me, usually accompanied by intrusive thoughts and emotions. Emitting energy around me very quickly improves the situation. It's almost like I feel lighter all of a sudden, but it doesn't last. I see. What it would be appropriate to try and focus on and emit energy towards the source of those thoughts, emotions instead. Let me reread this part here to make sure I try to understand. It doesn't last, that effect. I understand. Would it be more appropriate to try and focus on emitting energy towards the source of those thoughts, emotions instead? Iretiel, what I believe is going on here is that you sense something coming towards you, and that is very diffuse. But you know there is something there, and you know there's something affecting you. And you try to push away that negative energy only with emission, almost as if you were trying literally to, push those energy away. That doesn't work well. Usually not. Why? Because it's almost like trying to cleanse your aura, your energy field, the area of your energy, but you cleanse it. But the pressure, think of this word, the pressure of the energy of those entities or of that place or of that situation you are thinking of remains. And it's like really, creating impact on you. And you do that, alleviates. But then you stop. There's a pressure. It comes back. In cases like this, what I normally recommend, and I'm trying to assume the situation there, but when I am talking to someone, and that is a known feeling, look on what I'm talking about, a known feeling, something that comes and permeates, and you say, there comes that taste again, energetic taste. You see what I mean? And then you say, I know what it is, and I do not want it. I want to fight it. The best technique for this is Velo. It's a little bit more challenging, but you are not only trying to push that away, you are changing the capacity of those energies and those entities to connect with you. You are changing the roots of your chakras, the information that is in your energy field that allows them to penetrate. So it has a double effect: the immediate self-defense. It will work better than the emission of energy in this case, but also a long-term self-defense because you start changing the structure of your energy. Those of you who come to this master class or first class of the energy force field, I'm going to explain there are some new things about Velo, because of course I proposed Velo some 10, 12 years ago. And with all of these years passing, I'm seeing the effects of Velo, how people react to how it affects people. And I'm seeing that there are almost like layers or steps, phases of the work and how it starts changing us. And having more self-defense immediately, like something's negative and I do it, that is the first only. But after that, there are other phases that come. And if you were to emit energy, Iritiel, you would have to do it until you feel whoever was there was affected by your energy in a good way, but not in a, how would I say, passive way, not in a weak way. Some people confuse being positive with being weak. You can be strong, determined, firm. It's your energy field. And say, here, this is the type of energy that I have around me. Bam! And it will stop those entities from getting close. So you go and you do it stronger, you do more directly, you focus it better, and you finish the work. But it's not true that we can finish and conclude the work at once. Guys, if you get an intrusion, like an entity that is intrusive, you went to, I don't know, to a bank, and you left that bank with something strange, and you come home and you feel you are not so much yourself. Since that moment that you were in the bank, there was feeling of like hopelessness, or you feel tired, or you are too distracted. So you know something came with you. Then that is easy for you to cleanse. You work immediately and you cleanse that because that is foreign to you. But when we are talking about an entity, a being, a quality of energy that is super familiar to you, something that has been happening, that already have roots inside of you, that create these energo plugs, and that has some sort of matching conformity with the quality of your energy, it's not like we emit a little bit and do a little cleansing and it goes away. Because there is a relationship there, and that is the hardest. But hey, all relationships can be changed. Some of them take lifetimes. But here in this case, I think there's lots that we can do. Lots. I hope I could answer, okay, Aditya? I think there's something you are not doing so right there. I'm taking here the last questions, okay, guys? The last question. Ekta, hello. Really happy to watch you live. Thank you, Ekta. It's a pleasure to have you here. Can Velo be used as a form of nervous system regulation? Absolutely yes. May not apply, but thought I would ask. Yes, it can. Will it? It depends. It depends on what else is involved there. Because sometimes we may have like a nervous system situation that is related with our psychic sensitivity, with our energy, with experiences we have had in previous lives in terms of psychic experiences. And then it makes a huge difference. For people who are very sensitive, they may often have this sort of situation here and there or chronically, and it can help to different degrees. I've seen people that they completely got rid of some situations, But I also know of others that it was so physical situation, not spiritual, not energetic, that it helped a little. So of course it will depend, but definitely it's worth doing it, and it can help a lot. Can help a lot. Okay, I see another question here that I will answer, and I really stop with this one. Can Velo help to disconnect from information released by religions, specific from the predictions from oracles that come from religions? Can Velo help to disconnect from information released by religion, like a religion informed you of something and that stayed there impregnated, it keeps haunting you? Is that what you are talking about? In this case, yes. And many times there is something that we've learned or that we heard when we were young, or a movie that we watched. And when we talk about religion, we are talking about a network of energy that is organized. It's an institution. And some of these things that we learn, they tend to impact us in a way that it deeply affects us. Sometimes, even in our sleep, that information comes. Some entities with similar thoughts come and keep reinforcing that on us. This happens a lot, Angela, and Velo can make a big difference. Sometimes it's a struggle, it's a fight, in a good sense, because that information keeps coming to you, like creating pressure for you to think of that, for you to keep that in mind, and you do not want, so you work with energy. So it's almost like I'm wrestling. Many times I say, for certain situations, Velo is like arm wrestling, but a positive one. Okay? All right. So I guess that's it for today, huh? It was so nice having you all here. Let me say thank you for participating. Remember, please, to download my ebook if you want to have it. That is the Astral Projection, a primer. And you can also subscribe to my newsletter. So I keep sending you some articles and opportunities for live talks. And there are some exercises that I will do, I mean, energy exercises that I have been thinking of doing for a small group of people, because I like to be connected with actual people when I guide an exercise, because that is the inspiration of the moment. And not necessarily I want to do that open on YouTube. So that's it. I see Dawn had the last question. What is the master class you talked of? I get your newsletter, and I am in the consciousness development program, but I did not see it. It's because I have not yet sent out the information. I am planning to do it on the middle of September. We are just organizing loads of admin stuff to be able to do that, because then a whole process starts. That masterclass is for the energy force field course that I will offer in English for the first time. And that is a very profound course that can create profound change. So it requires that I am in person with you guys in several encounters to do what we are doing here. I will guide you, I'll see how things are going, and I'll be connected energetically with you, because that has the potential to be a very deep work. Of course, each person goes as far as they want, as far as they can, as they have the capacity to, but the idea is that. Hi, Trevor. I see you here with us now. That is very nice. And I will see you then in one of our future lives. I will try and keep a schedule that is more stable. And I will definitely keep you guys informed of the upcoming news there through my newsletter. A big, big hug to you. Huh? Ciao. Thank you. Thank you for participating. It was wonderful having you here. Really, literally. Thank you. Bye, guys. Ciao, ciao.